What's goody, everybody? Apple Finance here, and I'll give you a video on a hot topic that everyone's talking about right now, and that's Tier 1, Tier 2 content getting nerfed. What I'm going to talk about is, as a new player to Lost Ark, not a veteran, because most of the videos I see out there right now is like all the veterans talking on why content should be nerfed, should have nerfed, and everything to that factor. But in my opinion, I kind of go both ways on being Tier 3, what content should be nerfed, or even if it shouldn't be nerfed, like what they could add. So I have the list up in front of me, and I'm gonna just go through all the bosses just so that I can talk about it, see if it should be nerfed, shouldn't be nerfed, and to that extent. So the first one that we're gonna talk about is Virtus. Virtus is the last Guardian raid, and its raid level is 1. And with Virtus, it's really not, it's difficult, but it's not that difficult. Like, the mechanics is like, once you learn it, it's pretty easy. However, it's like, it's not as bad as people really chalk it up to be. And honestly, just like everyone else says, like, once you beat it the first time and get out of this gear level, you're never gonna face it again. So it's like, it's cool to learn the mechanics, but from a standpoint of Tier 3, you're not gonna do this boss again after you kind of beat it. You're only beating it to get to raid level 2. And in raid level 2, we have the Scorpion. And in my opinion, the Scorpion's really not hard. It's if you get electrocuted, he's going to pick you up. And if he picks you up, I feel like instead of people not knowing and running away, they should just add a stagger check bar to when someone gets picked up, so they know, oh, instead of running away, let me stagger check them so the person drops. And then from that, just like Abyssal dungeons, when you knock him out and there's like a big ass circle on his tail, usually people aren't like, oh, let me go hit the tail. No one hits the tail. No one breaks the tail off. Even in Tier 3, even with this Guardian, no one breaks the tail off. So there should be like a notice like, oh, if you break the tail, he does less damage or can't charge up or something like that. And that would help as well. I don't think it really needs to be nerfed, because I don't see how it would be nerfed, because his mechanics are kind of fine if you can kind of read what each character is going to do. So I don't think the mechanic is the issue. I just think of how they're displaying what to do next is kind of hidden, which is like, okay, veteran players are like, oh, or people in Tier 3 are like, oh, you should just know this, da 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 da. But there's people that really just don't know, oh, in Fox Yohu, I'm supposed to stagger check him when he's charging up. Because there's plenty of times when I get on my ult and I type out when no one hits him the first time and we wipe, I'm like, hey, that's a stagger check. Even though it doesn't show it, just keep hitting the boss. And then the countless of times they're like, oh, I didn't know that, thank you. And it's like, yeah, like if they add a stagger check bar to most of these bosses, in my opinion, would get easier. And that's the next one, Flame Fox Yohu. I think that's the only problem with that boss, because you can get in a pattern of, oh, this is when he's going to charge up every single time you do the boss fight, if you stagger him every single time. And I think in Fox Yohu, there is a point where you can't stagger him no more, but you don't know that because there's no stagger bar. So that would be like, oh, because when he gets low on health, he's gonna charge up regardless, is what it looks like every time I played the raid over and over again on my ult. And it's like, yeah, every time he charges up, you stagger him. But there's one time where we're doing the same thing, same motion, everyone has their moves, and he just doesn't stagger, he charges up regardless. And that's another thing they should add, in my opinion, because it's kind of like, oh, am I supposed to stagger him? Am I not supposed to stagger him type of deal? And it's just kind of confusing. However, I think that's the only issue with that type of boss fight, in my opinion. Which is the Fox right here. And then Titalos, I think the only issue with him is the dirt balls. I didn't even know they were a thing because everyone cheeses it. But when I was doing it on my main to help like other people out, I didn't even know what I was getting hit by, because I was like, what am I dying to? And then I was like, oh, like there's balls of dirt following me. And I really didn't know that. And I was like, oh shit. How are you supposed to destroy him? Because if you break him, if you don't break it fast enough, you blow up and die, basically. It's like a 1-2 shot mechanic because there's 2 balls following you. So it's like, okay, cool. But I think that's the only issue with him. I mean, before he wipes, you either cheese it or get in the dirt. There's no else beating the boss. I mean, I don't understand. They're going to take out the wipe mechanic. I mean, I feel like wipe mechanics are needed in the raids just so it teaches people, like, hey, when a boss does this, do this. It's like repetition. Like, it's not repetition with the boss, but it's just repetition. Like, okay, when we do the abyssal dungeon in the sea, when the boss does this, it's wipe mechanics, so go here. Because you're used to those wipe mechanics. I think the next boss is H-A-T-A-S. I think that's how you say it. But this boss, it wasn't really that difficult. I heard it was difficult solo because you have so many balls you have to put in the mini game type deal. However, it wasn't that bad. I mean, kind of self-explanatory. When you see ads, you kill them, and then the ball is kind of the same color as the shield. You just throw the ball in, and when he does his wipe mechanic, you just run away. I don't really see how that's all difficult, but I can see how it's difficult because some people just don't know, or this is their first time playing MMOs and stuff like that. I've never played an MMO like this, so they're like, okay, well, I don't see the ads because a lot of people just get tunnel vision and hit the boss, so they don't really look at their map. And that's the same thing with Alberhas. I think this is like one of the funnest bosses to face, in my opinion, with all of his different mechanics. I wish it was like a raid level 5 where we face him again. But it's just like Alberhas, where he has a red orb that spawns and you have to destroy the red orb. And if you're not looking at the map and doing the mechanics at the same time, he does a white mechanic. And it matters if you stagger him. There's stagger checks in it, but they're hidden, kind of. Well, they are hidden. It's not a kind of. They are hidden. And that's the issue. If there were stagger checks of when you have to stagger him, this boss fight would be 100% fine. Literally, when he goes in melee mode, if he's going to flash white or yellow on the ground, you pick up the opposite orb. When he's in flying mode or whatever, once you see the red orb, keep blowing it. If he does the rain thing, you get under him. If you see blue tornadoes, once he goes up in the sky, you go in the blue tornado. That is the easiest, in my opinion, out of all these. This is the easiest boss fight. And even with the Frostbird, she does the same thing. She charges up. No one knows to hit her while she's charging up. It's the same thing. So it's like, okay, if you add stagger checks to all these bosses to where you see a bar just like the Abyssal Raids, and it's muscle memory, so once you see a stagger check bar, you're like, okay, let me stagger him. I feel like most of these fights would be easier, because then the common player or even veteran players, because veteran players sometimes don't know that, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do it. Now the game is telling you to do it. Now if you don't do it, that's just, you're bad, point blank. And that's where people are kind of like, oh, if you're better, you'll know, stuff like that. But I don't think anything should be hidden from the player. I think the player should be like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. And if they don't do it, then they're bad type deal. It's not oh, it's hidden. You just got to be in the known, because being in the known doesn't really get you to tier 3. So, I mean, somebody's going to beat it for you regardless, in my opinion. But it's better if you know the mechanic. And if you just don't choose to do it, then it's like, okay, cool. And then, so that's kind of my thoughts on the Guardian Raids nerf. I just feel like instead of nerfing it, what they should do is implement all the stagger checks, everything in Abyss dungeons, put in Guardian Raids. Because, I mean, they kind of need to do the same thing, in my opinion. So, if they do that, I feel like there will be more people actually completing tier 1, tier 2. And then the honing is getting nerfed, so you know your chances are going up. I mean, it's a chance game kind of, so people are gonna have more luck than others. That's just how it is. That's how I look at it. That's my takes on it getting nerfed. I mean, people, I mean, I'm tier 3, you just gotta finesse your gold the way that you need to. So if you are at 1090 and you want to hit that and you fail 2 times, shit, you got enough gold where you can be like, man, fuck it, I'm gonna go get this and shit, and I'm gonna level up. And that's just my take on that. Like, if you're managing your gold wrong, then that just means you can't hone. In my opinion, that's just how I feel. I only have 15k gold, but you go back to my VODs, there was a point where I had 89 gold because I was investing in trying to get my character to tier 3. Like, I was pushing them to get to tier 3 just so I can make a lot of money at the end. Because once you get to tier 3, everything's so expensive. I'm not going past 1325. I'm gonna stay here, collect as much gold as I can, and then once everyone, because they're trying to make everyone get to tier 3 so they can drop all the other raids and stuff like that. Once everyone gets to tier 3, price is gonna drop. Once price drop, I get 1340 as fast as I want to. So that's kind of how I look at it. But back to the biz dungeons, we got the Necromancer. And I'm pretty sure the only thing with this one is your screen flashes, go get the orb. I mean, it's not really telling you what to do, but it's not that hard. But I can see where they're coming from. There's mechanics in the game where it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is the one with the dragon too, where you get hit by the thing and you gotta get the orb. Okay, cool. You just rotate it first. Usually people go by the left side. If you're first, you go first, second, third, fourth, rotate. Same thing over and over again. So I don't think Necromancer is that difficult, because it kind of sets you up, in my opinion, for Phantom Palace. And for Phantom Palace, it is, which one is it? The Hall of Twisted Warlord. And the sword one, every time I do it, I gotta explain the sword. And we wipe like 10 times before it happens. But people start clicking when the swords come, and I'm like, yeah, you go through this order. And if someone's messing up, usually I put that person first, and then it's like, okay, you're second, third, fourth, I'll go last because I know what I'm doing. So, and usually if you know what you're doing, when I ping, that means pick up the sword, because I'm trying to let them know, hey, when your screen does this, someone's gonna pick up the sword, your person's it's gonna flash that they picked up the sword, and then your person's gonna flash, everybody's person's gonna flash, and then you pick up the next sword. That's how you know when you're supposed to pick up the sword. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, we'll give it a couple runs, let you know how everything's going. If they're not doing it, I'll just say, hey, I'll ping. When I ping, pick the sword up. Because I mean, like, then they're like, oh, that's what you mean by the flash. It's like, it's little things like that. And it's like, it's not that it's difficult or it's hard. It's like, oh, that's what you're looking for. But to somebody that doesn't watch YouTube or anything like that, they won't know how to do it. And that's kind of the issue at hand. It's not they need to change the mechanic, they just need to implement it where if I don't watch YouTube, how many runs can I figure out what I'm doing? And I think that's the issue with this Abyssal Dungeon. I don't think it should be nerfed. I just think they should word it or put it on the screen like when, let's say, Gates of Paradise. So Gates of Paradise with the first Abyssal Dungeon, it's like it tells you what to do on the screen, kind of. It's like, okay, he's about to do the wipe mechanic, everyone goes in there, which is very simple. Like, you could learn that off of your first or second wipe. You're like, people tell you, okay, first time, everyone get in the circle, da 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 da, and then that's where you work on mechanics to where after he does the yellow circles on the ground, he has three moves ish, 4 moves ish, where after that he's gonna do the white mechanic, point blank. I tell people that all the time once I join the raid. Like, after the yellow move, after he does the yellow moves when he's standing up, 4 moves, and get as close to him as possible so we can hit the boss while being in the circle. Once you explain people like that, it's easy. Just like when he's on the ground, he's gonna do the same thing. He's gonna if he backs up twice after the second backup, usually he goes into the white mechanic. So it's really that I'm pretty sure it's that simple, but I'm just like that. They're probably talking about the last raid with Poseidon basically, and there's no mechanic to. There's a stagger bar, and then after the stagger bar, there's you got to kill the yellow orbs. And it might take people a few just to understand, like, okay, you're supposed to stagger them and then go to the yellow orbs. Don't let the yellow orbs in. The big ones, you can't destroy. That's what they should. You can't destroy the big ones. You just stagger them. And once you stagger them, you can walk away. And I think that's the shaky part, in my opinion, because not everybody knows, oh, when this happens, when I stagger the big yellow one, then guess what? I could go on to a smaller yellow one or blase and actually complete that part of the mechanic. And then once that comes in, it's DPS time. And I think is there another one? Oh, this one? I don't know what would be so hard about this one, in my opinion. Because you have the mirrors, the same color, you go through it, purple, you land on top of her. That's kind of that's pretty easy. The next one, you have 2 stagger checks, you point a light at them. I think you could get the light part in like, I would say like 5 tries if you don't know what you're doing. There's light, there's somebody literally with no light, and then you have 3 bars, and if the 3 bars aren't touching them, if the 3 lights aren't touching them, you can see what lights, like 1, 2, 3, they light up. I just feel like it's not a hard mechanic. Like, if you don't know how to stagger, then it's hard. But unless I'm missing a white mechanic, I'm pretty sure that one's pretty easy. Yeah, it takes a while because everyone's a low level, so you're trying to stagger them, stuff like that. People don't know how to stagger, but the light part is probably a difficult one because it's not even the mechanic itself. It's just you trying to point the light at the person. If the person doesn't know, oh, I'm supposed to stand still, then yeah, you just type. This is an MMO. Just type to them. You're not solo. Just type. That's the issue too. No one wants to type to each other. It's like everyone's scared. They never played an MMO before. Hey, don't. If you have this, don't move. That's what I do with this boss, the first boss, the golem and the whatever she is. It's like if you have the icon above your head, a bullseye above your head, just stand on the opposite side of the boss. So if the boss is standing north, go south. That's all you gotta type to him. If the boss is standing east, go west. And then the chess piece part, I just say, hey, I'll break the chess pieces on the side of the golem. The person with the mark, go stand behind them. Or if I have the mark, someone break the chess pieces. Something like that. If you know what you're doing, you kind of take roll so you can get out the abyss dungeon faster, but you're actually teaching them how to do it as well. Just so when you get here, there's a boss that if you stagger him 3 times, he does absurd amount of damage. Okay, it's either A1, no one really counters yet, so that's another topic I had, but no one really counters yet. However, if you counter him, it does attack check as a stagger check. So you counter him, you do absurd amount of damage. Everyone uses their high stagger abilities when that happens, and then he comes back, does his thing, and if he picks somebody up, you stagger him. That's a free damage, and it's simple stuff like that. Even the last boss, they don't really tell you to do it, but it's kind of built in. Like, I played this. It's kind of built in, like, okay, the boss is doing this, let me try this. Like, being tier 3, let me try that, let me try this. Like, you're not gonna get everything off rip, that's not what I'm saying. But these kind of built up, like muscle memory to certain things that happen and probably, or is going to happen in late game. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, yeah, it's fine if it gets nerfed. Guardian raids can get nerfed. You're never gonna play those Guardians ever again until the Korea version part of where they come back extra beefy. But other than that, it's like Abyss Dungeons, like they're cool in my opinion. If you have a coordinated group, that's probably the issue. Everyone's matchmaking, so you're getting randos. Obviously, you're gonna have issues. Like everyone took us like with one group, it took us like 30 minutes, 25 minutes to beat this, and then with another group on my other account, it took us about like 1 to 2 hours. And so it just matters who you matchmake as well. I think that's what people are having an issue with too, because it's like, okay, you might match with like an all-star team. You got LeBron and Kyrie on your team, and then next, you just got a bunch of fifth strings. But that's the whole point of an MMO. Like, you just enjoy who you're with. And I don't mind teaching people. I type all the time. And people probably mute me because I'm like, hey, do this. Hey, you got to do this when stagger check. Like, save all your staggers for this. And that's what I'm trying to, I mean, it's kind of like you're teaching them. So if you know what you're doing, just teach people and return once everyone gets to tier 3 that is going to play the game. It's like, oh yeah, well, this person kind of taught me this and I can apply this here. It's like the Scorpion and the Guardian raid. It's like, okay, it's the same Scorpion, just does different, doesn't even do different moves. It's just a different element, literally. And it's not really a white mechanic, but Scorpions come out, and you gotta kill Scorpions as fast as possible before they get like electric ring. They do crazy amount of damage. And it's like, once you figure that out, the boss is pretty easy. So that's kind of my take on it. My take is like, yeah, I think the nerf shouldn't be like, oh, we're actually nerfing the Guardian raids, but the nerf should just be like, okay, we're gonna add stagger checks where there should be stagger checks. If you can't stagger them, the bar will disappear, stuff like that. And I think that would be like a better quality of life to the game, because then everything's the same. So once you see a stagger check, you're in your mind, you're like, okay, bet that's a stagger check. You're not guessing, oh, is that a stagger check or should I just run away? So, and then with the Abyss Dungeons, I don't think it really should be nerfed. I think it should be like an easier way to tell people, hey, if you're gonna do this, do this. If you're gonna do that, do that. So that's kind of how I feel about the Abyss Dungeons as well. I think the only one that has a real issue, because it's an 8-man raid, is the C one, in my opinion. And that's just because it's 8-man. You gotta get 8 people on the same track, which is probably the hardest part, in my opinion. Like, getting 3 people on the same track is easier than getting 8 people on the same track. But those are my opinion on the upcoming nerfs. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think they should keep everything kind of the same and don't nerf anything in tier 3 unless they really need to, because like people said, I've been watching other people, Korean servers, Guardian, Legion raids get nerfed. They got nerfed. Like, every stuff gets nerfed, but at the same time, it's like I kind of want to try it out first before it gets nerfed. Like, let's see how Legion raid is, and if it is too hard for the mass population, yeah, then nerf it, because then they're gonna stop playing. I mean, we're always gonna keep playing, and I don't think they nerf it a certain way, it's going to be like that easy for us anyways, because they're pretty difficult if you actually watch them anyways. But that's my take. If you want to watch me on Twitch, it's Apples to Nasty, and I stream from usually 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock, mostly every day, and I'm trying to upload weekly, so you should get a video. The next video is probably going to be about gold. And other than that, I'll catch you later. Peace.